What up, YouTube? Here with another episode of Talk Wrestling. On this episode, I'll be giving y'all my reviews on the latest events that happened in pro wrestling. And the first event I'll be giving y'all my review on is AEW Wrestledream. That happened last Sunday. And I'll also be giving y'all my review on NXT No Mercy. And last but not least, I'll be giving y'all my review on WWE Fastlane as well. That happened yesterday. And I will also be giving y'all my thoughts on WWE releasing many of their talents that happened last week. And that goes into talking about how WWE acquired Jay Cargill and as well as AEW acquiring Adam Copeland. And who knows where the released WWE talents that got released from their contract last week will go. And as far as AEW, they got a stacked roster. They don't have their shows running like WWE, and there hasn't been any major roster cuts with AEW other than Jay Cargill. When her contract expired, she jumped ship to the WWE, and WWE has been making a big hype on Jay Cargill and their company acquiring her when she hasn't even debuted yet. Anyways, I'm going to talk about that after I give y'all my reviews on all the pay-per-view events that happened in both AEW and WWE. First pay-per-view event I'll be giving y'all my review on, AEW Wrestledream. And this event was dedicated to Antonio Inoki, the late great Antonio Inoki, who is recognized as a legend globally. He's the founder of New Japan Pro Wrestling. That's how y'all know AEW and New Japan Pro Wrestling worked together for this event. This wasn't like a collab event that we know that AEW and New Japan has put on before. The annual Forbidden Doors event that's been running ever since last year, and it's still an ongoing thing with AEW and New Japan, who work closely. You look at ROH, which is a part of AEW. You have what's his name, Shibata, who is the ROH Pure Champion. I think he wrestles with New Japan Pro Wrestling, and as well as Eddie Kingston, who's a current ROH champion. He has the New Japan Openweight title as well. And you see Will Ospreay, who's the current IWGP United States champion, and he's been working with AEW for All In and Forbidden Doors, and he's been a frequent face that's showed up on AEW television, and as well as Aussie Open and many other New Japan Pro Wrestling talent that's showed face on AEW programming, and as well as it being vice versa. And to open the show, they paid tribute to Antonio Inoki, who this whole show was dedicated to. And then the opening contest, we saw a 2-on-1 handicap match with MJF defending the ROH tag titles versus the Righteous Adam Cole. Now, I don't know if it's gimmicked or if he's injured for real. That's why MJF had to defend this title alone versus the Righteous. And this wasn't a classic pure wrestling match. It was more gimmicky and more of the entertainment aspect rather than a sports aspect that we saw produced out of this match. And MJF, this was pushing that whole gimmick of him being a crowd pleaser because he is a babyface now. And he's selling himself as this funny, charismatic, outgoing guy, which is working, by the way. And he definitely sold that characteristic in this match versus the Righteous. And I'm not gonna cap like I'm a long time avid ROH fan. I've definitely checked out their iconic matches in the past. However, I'm not familiar when it comes to this team, the Righteous. They look like jobbers to me. They're never there on AEW programming, and I don't keep up with what ROH has going on. I think they got a weekly episodic show going on. If they got to pay somewhere on YouTube, or if they got their own site where they live stream their weekly episodes. The Righteous earned, I think it was on Collision when they earned a tag team title shot versus MJF and Adam Cole. And as I said, currently Adam Cole is on the injured list, hence why this was a 2-on-1 handicap match. And MJF got the win after hitting his finisher on one member of the Righteous and then getting the pin in a typical heelish yet a babyface fashion, with him having his feet on the ropes for leverage to get the win, even though the guy who he hit his finishing move on didn't kick out at all. So it was really unnecessary that he did that. However, I get it. It was for comedic purposes, and that suits MJF's character that he's been pushing out there to the fans. And I'll give this match because we saw athleticism and wrestling elements in there as well. Good action, good back and forth. And the entertainment aspect, I was very appreciative of that. So I'll give this match a rating of a 3 out of a 5. I like it when they have showmanship in wrestling matches. And that is, I would say, different from the reputation that AEW has built as having a indie style wrestling match for almost all their matches. And the next match I will be giving y'all my review on, as I said, the opening contest, I'll give that match a rating of a 3 out of a 5. And if I don't have the match order in the exact order that it happened at, bear with me. It's not a big deal anyway. I'm going to be giving y'all my reviews on every match that happened on the card, and I won't miss any matches that happened on the card. So bear with me, because it doesn't matter if I don't have every match in exact order, all right? If y'all picky about that, and if y'all bothered by that, then I don't know what to tell y'all. And then the next match we saw was for the ROH and the New Japan Openweight Championship. Eddie Kingston, who holds both titles, versus a challenger, the ROH Pure Champion, Shibata. And this match was that wrestling match that AEW, ROH, and New Japan Wrestling, the purists, the so-called educated wrestling fans, I'm not going to use any disrespectful words such as, I don't, y'all know, if y'all tapping into this video, I'm going to say wrestling fans that are tapped in and avid wrestling fans, and that's been tapping into pro wrestling for a while, right? That's the style that this match produced as expected. It was a hard-hitting, strong style of a match that we saw between Shibata and Kingston, and as well as it having good back and forth, good action as well. Eddie Kingston retained and successfully defended his ROH and New Japan Openweight title after he got the pin after hitting the powerbomb and that's how he won the match and successfully defended his titles. And I'll give this match a rating of a 3 out of a 5 as well. Then the next match we saw was for the TBS title, Chris Statlander versus Julia Hart. Now, Julia Hart, AEW has been making her out to be a legit wrestler now. She used to be a jobber who was on the come up, who's been on the training side of AEW, and that's why she was getting the jobber treatment anytime she would compete. Now they're actually pushing her, and if she got a slot to challenge for the TBS title, then there's definitely no doubt when it comes to her being a legit female wrestler on the AEW female roster department. And they've got her on a win streak. She's more than just a manager. She's always been accompanying the House of Black ever since she joined forces with the House of Black, and I think that was like a year or two ago when she became a part of that. And now she's the one wrestling. I don't know where Malachi Black and I was going to call him Buddy Matthews or Buddy Murphy. I don't know what gimmick name he goes by now. There was only Brody King who was ringside accompanying Julia Hart for her match versus Chris Statlander for the TBS title. And I don't know why the Best Friends, who's associated and affiliated with Chris Statlander, wasn't out there accompanying Chris Statlander to even out the odds at ringside for this match, because other than Orange Cassidy, Trent Beretta, neither Chuck Taylor, both of them didn't have anything happening for them on this event, so I don't see why they don't have either one of those guys accompanying Chris Statlander for this match. And House of Black doesn't have anything going on, and neither does the Best Friends, so I think it would have been something that AEW could have put together to have Best Friends and House of Black with Chris Statlander and Julia Hart being involved in that angle as well to start a feud there. However, it ain't happened though. I'm just throwing out an idea just to throw out an idea. Anyways, the match itself was good. Julia Hart keeps on improving as a competitor. She definitely showed out in this match, and she had a good wrestler to make her look good. The chemistry in this match was there as well. The back and forth and the action in this match as well was good. And Chris Statlander got the win. She successfully defended her TBS title after hitting the pile driver and then transitioning into her finisher to get the win. And I'll give this match a rating of a 3 out of a 5. And I'll say this was Julia Hart's definitely the most important match of her young career thus far, and as well as the best match that I've seen her involved in. And looking forward to seeing more of what AEW is going to do with Julia Hart. I don't think her push is going to be derailed after a performance like this. And I don't know if they're going to have her go on the streak like she did prior to this defeat versus Chris Statlander, or if she's going to go back to managing. However, I don't see her in the title picture for the AEW Women's World title, obviously, because she just lost to Statlander for the TBS title. Now, who knows, though? The only good thing is, I would say, the positive thing out of this defeat is the fact that she could hang in there with legit competitors and have a pay-per-view match and show that she's worthy of being featured in pay-per-view matches. And did I already give a rating for this match before I lost track? As I said, I'll give this match a rating of a 3 out of a 5 if I didn't give it a match rating already. Anyways, the next match on the card we saw was for the number one contender spot for the AEW tag titles. It was a four-way match with the Young Bucks, Lucha Bros, the Gun Bros, and Orange Cassidy and Hook. And the Young Bucks got the win to earn themselves yet another tag team title shot. And I think it's going to be at their next pay-per-view event, which is Full Gear, happening next month. And I'm looking forward to seeing yet another match with Young Bucks and FTR. They put on a classic. Well, they put on a classic anytime they step in the ring to face each other. We saw, I think it was 2020, was it Full Gear, when they first had their match for the AEW tag titles. They put on the classic there, and at All In this past August, we saw another classic match with those two tag teams, and then hopefully we get another one at Full Gear after the Young Bucks got this win at Wrestledream last Sunday. And this match, I like how it was orchestrated, because when you have matches like this where there's a bunch of wrestlers in one match, it seems to be too busy for its own good and too much going on and not well organized. That's why I say, when you have matches like these, you don't want it discombobulated, you don't want it to be messy and sloppy, and you don't want it to be where bodies are flying everywhere, and it becomes hard to keep up with when you have that many bodies going on, especially with the style that AEW has for majority of their matches, where all their wrestlers look for highlight reel spots to shine. And when you have matches like this, every single wrestler doesn't have the time to put on any highlight reel spots during matches like this. However, this match, it was well played out, it was well organized, and it was well orchestrated and well produced, and there was comedic elements as well. That's why the Gun Club, they are, I would say, unappreciated. They know how to work the crowd, and as well as they don't lack when it comes to the entertainment aspects, because they have that comedic side to them where they play with the crowd, and the crowd giving them heat when it comes to calling them ass boys and them being made fun of by the crowd, and them having that weaselly character about them. And that was displayed in this match when they try to take the shortcut by having one brother pinning another brother to hopefully get the win in this match. And I thought that was a key part of this match that was displayed. And the Young Bucks got the win after hitting the BTE trigger to secure the win. And as I said, looking forward to seeing another match with Young Bucks and FTR. And I'll give this match a rating of a 3.5 out of a 5. And the next match on the card was, I'm gonna get my reviews. As I said, it may not be in order. Who cares? Because I don't care. I'm giving a rating for every match that happened on the card, and that's all that matters. Anyways, the next match I'll be giving my review on was the match with Swerve Strickland and Hangman Adam Page. And this match was definitely a push and a good look to Swerve Strickland, because Hangman Adam Page has already been established as a legit top singles wrestler in AEW, because he's already main evented before. He's already held the world title and has gotten in there with the best that AEW had to offer. And Swerve Strickland, on the other hand, he just recently joined AEW, a year or two ago. He was a part of a tag team, and that's the only title that he's held ever since joining AEW. And then after he got out of basking in his glory, he went his own route, and after the Mogul group that he tried to get going on his own didn't work out, he joined forces with the Embassy, starting the Mogul Embassy with Prince Nana, the Gates of Agony, and Brian Cage. Now they are pushing Swerve Strickland to be a legit singles competitor, and that was definitely stamped at WrestleDream last Sunday when he got a win over on a former AEW champion versus Hangman Adam Page. And his character was definitely a shining factor in this match as a heel, and Swerve Strickland is definitely a legit force to be reckoned with, because not only can he perform in the ring, he has the charisma edge that is a part of his character. And speaking of character, he has that, and he knows how to work the crowd, and he knows how to display the it factor when it comes to being a potential main eventer in the future, and definitely a legit major player that AEW has to offer right now. And I think Title Tuesday, which is the next AEW Dynamite episode, he's going to be wrestling Bryan Danielson to determine who's going to challenge Christian Cage in the future for the TNT title. And Swerve Strickland, he went for the international title before. However, that's when he was somewhat left in the back burner, and now he's revitalized himself, especially after getting a win versus Hangman Adam Page this past Sunday, or last Sunday, at WrestleDream. And this is how AEW did a good job at booking this and pushing Swerve as a legit heel. After Hangman Adam Page had hurt his arm, and it was a gimmick thing, not a legit arm injury that Hangman Adam Page has suffered, after Swerve Strickland snapped his right arm, the training, the trainers, at ringside had to come out and check on Hangman Adam Page because his right arm was injured, and the referee had to postpone the match to check on Hangman Adam Page. And then Swerve Strickland wasn't having none of it. The referee didn't sound the bell to call to a halt to the bout, and then Swerve Strickland would hit the swerve stomp while the trainers and the referee and the physicians was checking on Hangman Adam Page, and he would hit the 450 splash after that right onto the injured right arm. And then Hangman Adam Page, in typical babyface fashion, would kick out of the 450 splash and the swerve stomp that was hit on the apron while he was getting checked on. And then Hangman Adam Page looked like he was going to come back. Then Prince Nana provided the distraction on behalf of Swerve Strickland. And then Swerve Strickland, who was already down and out for the count after Hangman Adam Page hit his finishing move on Swerve Strickland, Prince Nana will place Swerve Strickland's foot onto the bottom rope for the referee to have the match continue. If that wouldn't have happened, Hangman Adam Page would have got the victory in this match. then the referee was smart enough to catch Prince Nana cheating on the behalf of Swerve Strickland, and then that's what would get the referee to kick out Prince Nana. And while Prince Nana had the referee's attention by arguing with him, he would leave his crown that he wears on his head in the ring while he was getting kicked out, and Swerve Strickland would hit Heyman Adam Page with that crown and then hit the JDM driver. I think that's what his finishing move is called. And then that's how Swerve Strickland got the win over on Heyman Adam Page. And this is by far Swerve Strickland's biggest victory in his AEW career. And the match itself was a good one, and I will give this match a rating of a 4 out of a 5. It was one of the best matches I was featured at Wrestledream. And then the next match on the card I'll be giving y'all my review on was a trios match with Kenny Omega, Kota Ibushi, Chris Jericho taking on the Don Callis family, consisting of Will Ospreay, Sammy Guevara, and Takeshita. And this storyline has been brewing for a while. It's been a storyline that AEW has been working on with emphasis for a while now. Takeshita and Omega's rivalry began at Double or Nothing, and then it's still continuing because of the angle that's been going on with Don Callis, Takeshita, and Kenny Omega, and as well as Kenny Omega and Will Ospreay having a rivalry ever since last year when they met for the IWGP United States title at Wrestle Kingdom last year, and then they wrestled again at Forbidden Doors this year, putting on yet another classic. And then we saw Will Ospreay take on Chris Jericho at All In, and that was a decent match as well. And then we saw on AEW as of late, Sammy Guevara aligning himself with Don Callis and the Don Callis family, betraying Chris Jericho after what took place at All In, and then what's been happening with them losing as a tag team after JAS split. Sammy Guevara has been the only one sticking by Chris Jericho, and then it all came to a boiling end when it came to their relationship at AEW Grand Slam after Chris Jericho defeated Sammy Guevara, and then that's when Sammy Guevara was feeling salty and then betrayed Chris Jericho to align himself with Don Callis, and then that's how this whole storyline and this rivalry intertwines with each other. And then Kota Ibushi obviously having past history with Kenny Omega from their New Japan days. And Kota Ibushi, I don't think he's a part of New Japan Pro Wrestling anymore. I think he's publicly let that be known to pro wrestling fans. And Kota Ibushi, he's been appearing on AEW frequently, not as a full-time talent, however, as a reoccurring face that's been showing up on AEW whenever they find it suitable for Kota Ibushi to make an appearance on their program. And this match was a good match as well. It had good action, good back and forthness with all the competitors that was involved in this match. And the Don Callis family ended up getting the win after Chris Jericho had Sammy Guevara where he wanted him at. Then Don Callis, while the referee was being distracted with what was going on the outside, Don Callis would hit Chris Jericho over the head with Jericho's own bat, and then that would get Sammy Guevara to get the pin over on Chris Jericho to get the win for his team. And I'll give this match a rating of a 3 out of a 5. And it's looking like this storyline is going to continue, because I don't think Kenny Omega and Chris Jericho is done with Don Callis and his affiliates until they get what they want out of Don Callis and his affiliates, because if y'all saw Dynamite, Chris Jericho and Kenny Omega together welcomed Adam Copeland, formerly known as Edge, for his debut on Dynamite last Wednesday. And it's not a spoiler anymore because all wrestling fans know that Adam Copeland made his debut at Wrestledream. And I'm going to talk about that later on after I give y'all my review for the main event at Wrestledream, which was Christian Cage versus Darby Allin in a best out of a 3 match for the TNT title. And then the next match on the card was for the AEW tag titles. It was FTR defending their AEW tag titles versus Aussie Open. Aussie Open has been a tag team that's been a part of New Japan for a while. Former IWGP tag team champions, and they've gotten in there versus FTR before for the IWGP tag titles. I don't think they've ever faced each other for the the AEW tag team titles before. And this was the first time, I think, having a tag team match for the AEW tag team titles, or actually the first time ever that they wrestled each other on a AEW show. And it wasn't as hyped as I would say it should be, because I don't know, this event was more like it was thrown out there for AEW to add more pay-per-views to their young company, because AEW only became a franchise. Well, it's been 4 years now. Yeah, AEW has only been on for 4 years, so they're still quite relatively young and fresh, and they started out with only having 4 pay-per-view events. Now they got 7 with Forbidden Doors, All In, and Wrestledream. And I don't know if they're going to add more. I think 7 is a good number as of right now. If they continue to grow and continue to make more of a impact in the wrestling business, then I would definitely say they can add more pay-per-views on the calendar as they continue to grow. And they definitely are growing. And don't mind the noise. I'm not even gonna wait for it to stop. Anyways, the next match, as I said, I was gonna be giving y'all my review on, was for the tag team titles before I got to talking about the pay-per-views that AEW has been adding on to their calendar as of this year. This match for the tag titles was, I would say, mediocre. You would have expected more out of FTR and Aussie Open, with them two being a already well-established tag teams and having a reputation of being legit tag teams who put on classic wrestling matches. However, this felt more like a time slot filler for a pay-per-view event rather than it being a legit tag team match for the tag team titles. And FTR and Aussie Open, as I said, has built a reputation of taking wrestling seriously, especially when it comes to tag team wrestling, and them valuing and emphasizing the tag titles. It didn't feel like it though. The action was decent. The back and forth was decent. There was double team moves performed in this match that was decent. However, it just wasn't well orchestrated and well produced how this match was choreographed. And FTR got the win, retaining their AEW tag team titles. And I'll give this match a rating of a 3 out of a 5. And that's being generous, and that's me being, I would say, nice. Anyways, the next match on the card, we saw Wheeler Yuta take on Ricky Starks. Now, this was another time slot filler of a match. Now, this was built as one as well because these two wrestlers are both young and fresh and up and coming talent who are considered prospects amongst the mid-card department on the AEW roster. And Wheeler Yuta has been getting the push ever since, aligning himself with the Blackpool Combat Club. And then Ricky Starks, after leaving Team Taz and going on a singles run, he's been getting a push ever since then. He's had a title shot for the AEW World title, and he had a good push as a babyface, gotten in there with the likes of Chris Jericho and Bryan Danielson as of late as well. CM Punk before he got terminated by AEW yet again. And then Wheeler Yuta, I ain't got to speak too much about him. He's been getting the push, as I said, ever since joining BCC. And he's gotten in there with the likes of Jon Moxley, Bryan Danielson, held the ROH Pure title. And as I said, I would say Wheeler Yuta has been getting more of a push as a singles wrestler more than Ricky Starks and longer than Ricky Starks, because he's been on the scene with more of a legit group, with him having Bryan Danielson, Claudio Castagnoli, and Jon Moxley being in the same group as him, and them being already well-established, well-recognized main event guys prior to them or before AEW was even a wrestling franchise. And that's why I say Wheeler Yuta, I say, is more of a well-reckoned name and face when it comes to being more recognized. And Ricky Starks, as I said, and Wheeler Yuta, both guys I say are on the same level, and that's why them having this match at Wrestledream was a good look for both wrestlers. And we had Jon Moxley on the commentary as well, and I thought that was helping as far as the entertaining element goes and the comedic element goes, because his attitude and his character, I would say, brings that, and we definitely got that. And the match itself was mediocre. It was decent. It was like any other AEW match we would have got out of these two if they were to wrestle on a Dynamite, Collision, or even a Rampage. And Ricky Starks got the win. I wouldn't say... I would say cleanly, because Jon Moxley, even though he was ringside, he didn't get involved in this match, unlike Big Bill, who came out there on the behalf of Ricky Starks, and he provided, I would say, enough distraction. And Jon Moxley didn't do anything on the behalf of Wheeler Yuta. And Big Bill, he ran into the steel post by himself, taking himself out of the action. And then Ricky Starks got the win after hitting the spear and hitting his finishing move to get the win over on Wheeler Yuta. And I'll give this match a rating of a 2.5 out of a 5. And then the next match on the card, this was, I would say, the most hyped match on this card. And this was a match between Bryan Danielson and Zack Sabre Jr. Now, this match was built as a dream match, obviously, because of the similar styles that both these wrestlers share. They're both submission experts, and that's exactly what we saw. Both guys are very hybrid and agile and mobile, and they know all these holds, and that's why they were able to produce the match that we saw at Wrestledream last Sunday. And this match didn't disappoint. I would say definitely, as it was advertised, it was the best pure wrestling match we saw out of Wrestledream. And it was amazing to see these two wrestlers, how they transitioned from suplexes to holds And from one spot in the ring, whether it be from the top rope or whether it be from springboard moves, from bouncing off the ropes and arm drags, transitioning to holds, and them reversing one hold to another, from one move to another, it was impressive. It was a good look. And Bryan Danielson ended up getting the win via pinfall and not via tap out. And that was, I would say, surprising to, I would say, many wrestling fans. And people, I think, was expecting Bryan Danielson to get a win via tap out or via Zack Sabre Jr. not tapping out and passing out, much like how Bryan Danielson's been getting his victories versus Ricky Starks, who he's been wrestling ever since he came back into action after getting a win over on Okada at Forbidden Doors. And that's how he beat Okada as well, if I remember correctly. And if I didn't get how that Okada match ended right, I don't care. Correct me if I'm wrong, though. Anyways, Bryan Danielson got the win after hitting multiple running knees on Zack Sabre Jr. And I'll give this match a rating of a 4 out of a 5. It didn't disappoint. It lived up to its hype. And then the main event was for the TNT title, best out of a 3 match. This storyline has been brewing ever since All In, when Christian Cage replaced AR Fox to be Swerve Strickland's partner to take on the team of Darby Allin and Sting in a coffin match. And Swerve Strickland and Christian Cage lost that match. And Christian Cage just recently became TNT champion in a 3-way match. I think it was a few weeks ago on Collision, when it was Luchasaurus versus Christian Cage versus Darby Allin. And I forgot how Christian Cage won the title. However, he did win the title at Collision. Doesn't matter how. All you got to know is he won the TNT title at Collision. And it was probably in a cheap, typical heel fashion. And that's why Darby Allin, him being that typical cliche babyface, which works for Darby Allin, and him saying the way how Christian Cage carries himself is wrong, and that's why this match was a best out of a 3 match. And I like how Christian Cage, I say he's on, I would say, the best run of his career. And it's great to see Christian Cage go on a run like this, especially at this stage, late in his career. And it's unbelievable to see him perform at this level, because this reminds me of Christian Cage's impressive run back in 2004, 2003, 2005, when he was on a hot streak, when he first became Captain Charisma and had that whole peep show thing going. And his work as a heel has been amazing as of late. And he's got Luchasaurus by his side, and him being that manager for Luchasaurus, and then now with him building Luchasaurus up as a legit monster, as him being the manager mentor for Luchasaurus and providing that heat for Luchasaurus. And then now, because of Christian Cage's character work, caught so much heat for what Christian Cage has gotten going on for him and Luchasaurus, that he became more active as a wrestler rather than a manager. And how this angle was pitched with Darby Allin saying he don't like how Christian Cage carried himself, and Christian Cage saying Darby Allin is nothing but a glorified stuntman, a Jeff Hardy ripoff, and who only has a crowd on his side because he does all these flippity, risky, jumpy moves. And you have Christian Cage, who says he is the better wrestler, and that's why this was a best out of a three match. And Christian Cage saying it's not about how you carry yourself, he's just the overall better wrestler, hence why he's going to beat Darby Allin in a best out of a three match. And the match didn't disappoint at all. It wasn't a Bryan Danielson versus Zack Sabre match. And a match like Bryan Danielson versus Zack Sabre Jr. doesn't need any storyline for it to sell itself. And this match actually had a legit storyline behind it. And hence why they were able to play this match off as the main event rather than having Bryan Danielson versus Zack Sabre Jr. be the main event for Wrestledream. And it was a best out of a three match. And how this match ended, it was the perfect way to close the show. And Darby Allin got the first fall in this match after he did the clever move where he used Christian's attire to his advantage to get the first fall in this match. He would have Christian's attire pulled up to cover his eyes to roll him up to get the first fall in this match, and that's how Darby Allin got the first fall. I thought that was funny. Anyways, the second fall was Christian Cage's, and it happened via count out after Christian Cage was slammed Darby Allin twice onto the steel steps, and then he would go on a rampage, ripping off the mat that's placed in the ring usually, and he would expose the hardwood of the ring, and Darby Allin had to have the physicians and the trainers and the referees to check on him because of how brutal that spot was angled out to be after Christian Cage has slammed him twice onto the steel steps. And the way Darby Allin sells his opponent's move is gold, and that's why this seemed like the legit angle to push for, and it makes Darby Allin look more like the babyface, and Christian Cage going on the berserkness that he went on adds to his character work. And Christian Cage, after ripping off the mat that's placed in the ring and him going crazy, and Darby Allin looked like he was going to get stretchered out, Christian Cage would have retained the TNT title and would have been declared the victor if Darby Allin was to get carried out on the stretcher, because that would have meant that Darby Allin couldn't have continued. And while Darby Allin was being placed on the stretcher, Christian Cage out of nowhere would climb to the top rope and hit a frog splash on a laid out Darby Allin on the stretcher. And I thought that was a highlight reel spot, and Christian Cage performing those moves at his age is not only risky and dangerous, I would say that is more of a good look and makes Christian Cage look like gold, because him pulling off those risky, dangerous moves at this stage in his career, hats off to him, man. Anyways, then Christian Cage would go on to attack Darby Allin and continue his onslaught, and he would hit the kill switch after he kept on his relentless attack on Darby Allin, and Darby Allin in typical babyface fashion would kick out, and Darby Allin would make a comeback after the referee was taken out when Christian Cage went to hit the spear on Darby Allin, and Darby Allin would move out of the way, and the referee would instead get hit with the spear when Darby Allin, the spear which was meant for him, he dodged it, and that's why the referee got hit and was taken out of the frame. And then Darby Allin, that's when he started to make his comeback, and Christian Cage, in typical heel fashion, found opportunity for himself to cheat, and he held the TNT title after he had the momentum on his side, and he would look to hit Darby Allin with that TNT title that he had in his grasp. And Nick Wayne, Darby Allin's longtime buddy, would come out of nowhere, and he's been a part of this storyline ever since the build to All In. And Christian Cage has been targeting Nick Wayne and has been trying to influence Nick Wayne by attacking Nick Wayne and targeting Nick Wayne and his family. And then Nick Wayne, this looked like he was going to get his revenge on Christian Cage by taking the TNT title out of his grasp and having Christian Cage running away from him. And then that gave Darby Allin enough time to get back up on his feet, and it looked like a 2-on-1 situation. And Darby Allin was pointing to Nick Wayne to strike Christian Cage with that TNT title that Nick Wayne had in his grasp after he took that away from Christian Cage. And then Christian Cage was in the corner looking defenseless and helpless, begging Nick Wayne and Darby Allin to not do him in. And then out of nowhere, Nick Wayne would hit Darby Allin with the TNT title, surprised to many people that was in attendance, and it was more heat than usual because this was in Seattle, and that's where Darby Allin is from, hence why the crowd reacted the way they reacted when this moment happened. And Darby Allin's mom being in attendance ringside for this match added on to the heat part to this match and to this scene that happened during this match. And to educated and tapped in long-time wrestling fans, this was somewhat an angle that could have been expected because it was talked about. And Christian Cage having another wrestler under his tutelage, and Nick Wayne now being a part of Christian Cage's group, is a good look, and it pushes not only Christian Cage's momentum that he's got going on right now as one of the best heels, not only in AEW, I would say in all of pro wrestling right now, and Nick Wayne being a young, fresh talent. If Christian Cage was able to do that for Luchasaurus, and Luchasaurus has already somewhat built himself as being a legit wrestler when he has already had built a reputation being former tag team champions as Jurassic Express. And Nick Wayne, now that he has became a talent on AEW, and now he's a part of a important angle that AEW has prioritized, and it's one of the hottest storylines that AEW's got going on right now. It would be easy for Nick Wayne to get a push and capitalize off of the streak that Christian Cage and Luchasaurus and now Adam Copeland, Darby Allin, and Sting has already got going on right now. And that's how Christian Cage got the win in this best out of 3 match, and he is still the TNT champion. And then after the match, Nick Wayne and Christian Cage would go on to continue their attack on Darby Allin, and then Sting would come out to even out the odds, and Luchasaurus came out, and then that was too much for Sting to handle by himself, with Darby Allin already being taken out after what took place in this match. So it was a 3-on-1 match, not a match, pardon, it was a 3-on-1 assault that was going on Sting from Christian Cage, Nick Wayne, and Luchasaurus. And then out of nowhere, Adam Copeland would make his AEW debut after only a day when his WWE contract expired, and WWE didn't agree to the terms that Adam Copeland had presented for them to work with each other, because Adam Copeland did want to finish his career with the WWE because they had a long-lasting relationship, and Adam Copeland, formerly known as Edge, has been with the WWE for more than 20 years. They just recently celebrated his 25th year anniversary last month on SmackDown when he put on that classic wrestling match on the main event of SmackDown versus Sheamus on his 25th year anniversary. And that being only a month ago, and Edge came back as a talent on the WWE roster. Was it 2020 or 2019? It was either one of those years that Edge made his return after retiring back in 2011 when he was told that he couldn't wrestle again. And he's been putting on some classic wrestling matches whenever he got in the ring. And I'm sure WWE would have liked to continue working with Adam Copeland, also known as Edge. However, I don't know what Adam Copeland was asking for the WWE to keep on working with Adam Copeland. Apparently, WWE didn't like what Adam Copeland was asking for, hence why they didn't agree to re-sign Adam Copeland after his contract expired. And yet Adam Copeland, only after a day of the WWE deciding to not extend their working relations with Adam Copeland, him signing with AEW, that was expected by many people because Adam Copeland, being a Hall of Famer, that's why as soon as Adam Copeland became a free agent, it was going to be a hot pickup for any wrestling franchise to sign Adam Copeland. And it wouldn't have made sense for Adam Copeland to go to any other company other than AEW if he wasn't going to work with the WWE. I don't see him going overseas to wrestle out there in Japan. That's why Adam Copeland signing with AEW wasn't a surprise to many wrestling fans. The only surprise was how quick he signed to AEW. And with his childhood friend Christian Cage already being there at AEW, that's why it was expected. And there was already, I would say, a spoiler with Adam Copeland debuting at Wrestledream last Sunday, because the wrestling fans on the dirt sheets, on the internet, and the rumors were surfacing that Adam Copeland was around the area and has been seen in the Seattle area where Wrestledream was being hosted, and there was talks about WWE not having the copyright rights to Edge's theme song. I think it's Rectangulus or something like that. I don't know. Y'all know Adam Copeland's theme song. He has the same theme song when he was Edge in the WWE. And there was talks amongst wrestling fans that Adam Copeland, if he was to debut on AEW, he'd be using the same theme song. And that's what gave away Adam Copeland already signing to AEW. And him making his debut in less than a day after his contract expired and he left the WWE, and how quick AEW was able to pick up on Adam Copeland as a new acquired talent to their roster, that was the only surprise, if you want to call it a surprise. And Adam Copeland, seeing him outside of the WWE and him not being called Edge, that's gonna be a new look for many wrestling fans to get used to. And it was definitely AEW's memorable moments, because AEW, ever since they became a franchise, they've been having these surprise debuts for talents that they pick up on after the WWE and the wrestler that AEW signs leaves the WWE. And I'm talking about like already well established and well known talent that had momentum in the WWE while they was with the WWE. I say this definitely how they had this play out with Adam Copeland's debut and how the close to AEW Wrestledream, it was very well staged and very well put together. And that's why I say it was one of the best debuts that AEW has in their company's history. And because of all these features that was featured on the main event to Wrestledream, that's why this match between Christian Cage and Darby Allin gets the best match of the whole card on Wrestledream. As I said, I'll give this match with Christian Cage and Darby Allin a rating of a 4 out of a 5. And the whole Wrestledream event as a show gets a rating of a 7.5 out of a 10. It was a good, solid wrestling show from top to bottom. And moving on to the next review, I will be giving y'all my thoughts on NXT No Mercy. This happened last Saturday. This also was a good, solid wrestling show from top to bottom. And NXT has been making a revitalization as of late. And it's almost looking like NXT back in the days when Triple H was running it. And they was producing, I would say, some of the best wrestling in all of wrestling when Triple H was the head of creative for NXT. Now, I ain't got to talk about NXT's golden days. Y'all already know when Shinsuke Nakamura was there, Samoa Joe was there, Sami Zayn was there, Kevin Owens, Seth Rollins, Neville. The list goes on and on. And right now, it's almost at that stage. NXT was looking like they was dead from when Triple H was running it, and then Shawn Michaels took over NXT's head of creative department. And then after 2020 and AEW had their rating wars going on with NXT on Wednesdays, and NXT had to move from Wednesdays to Tuesdays. That's when NXT lost its steam. And then after Triple H became head of creative last year, then Shawn Michaels got the freedom to be the creative of NXT and run NXT the way how he wanted to run it. And it's looking like a legit show. And they're producing some of the best quality wrestling matches, and their storylines and their product is looking real good right now. And that's why they're able to produce pay-per-view events as frequently as they do. And No Mercy, as I said, good show from top to bottom. The first match to NXT No Mercy was a match with Braun Breaker and Baron Corbin. Now, I like how this storyline was built. Baron Corbin, since he had nothing going on after he ditched that whole Happy Corbin gimmick, and he's unappreciated as well because his character change and his ability to adapt is remarkable. And that's what makes him, I would say, a very important, one of the best talents in WWE right now, because he can perform in the ring, and as well as him having character and his adaptability is what makes him a legit wrestler, and he has the factors to be a major player anywhere he goes. And Braun Breaker, he is a prospect that's showing that he has an it factor. He could work both as a heel and a baby face. He could perform in the ring, and as well as him developing character and having a gimmick as well helps Braun Breaker to be a talent to look out for and to be a major player in the future. And that's why this match was important. And as I said, the storyline made sense because Braun Breaker being a stable name for NXT and has been for a long time, and Baron Corbin coming over from the main roster to NXT and having his nose held up high, and his whole character is that he's on his own, he's burnt his past, he's left it, and he's forgotten about it, he's moved on, and he has named himself as the head honcho of NXT and the locker room leader of NXT, and how everybody else is beneath him. And then that's how Braun Breaker stepped up and said NXT is his program. And that's how this match came about. And their style of that not give a F attitude, both those wrestlers having that style, that's why this rivalry made sense. And the match didn't disappoint. This was a set pacer for the rest of the show. And before the bell rang to start the match, we saw these two duke it out and have a brawl all throughout the arena. And there was a spot in the match where Baron Corbin gets speared through the barricade, and that's after Baron Corbin slammed Braun Breaker through the table, and Braun Breaker would have a Undertaker moment where he would get up from off his back and sit up, and then he would strike Baron Corbin with a spear through the barricade. And then this is how Baron Corbin got the win, though. The manager to Von Wagner, who Braun Breaker was in a rivalry with before having this match versus Baron Corbin, came out to attack Braun Breaker on the behalf of Von Wagner after Braun Breaker took out Von Wagner on NXT a few weeks ago. And then that provided Baron Corbin enough time to where Braun Breaker was distracted, and Baron Corbin could have swooped in there and hit the end of days to get the win over on Braun Breaker. And I'll give this match a rating of a 3.5 out of a 5. And then the next match on the card we saw was for the NXT North American title. Dominic Mysterio defending his NXT North American title versus Trick Williams. And Trick Williams, he's not playing the managerial role for Carmelo Hayes. Carmelo Hayes being the NXT champion, and he's been that ever since spring of this year. And that's how Trick Williams and Carmelo Hayes split from always being together, because Carmelo Hayes wants to prove himself as being a legit champion, and Trick Williams also wants to prove himself as being a legit competitor and his own man. And he got the perfect opportunity to do that versus Dominic Mysterio last Saturday at No Mercy to challenge for the NXT North American title. And he had his breakthrough moment when he defeated Dominic Mysterio. And this match was a good action match, good back and forth, good pace of a match we saw between these two wrestlers. And Trick Williams got the win after hitting his finishing move and became the new NXT North American champion. And Dominic Mysterio doesn't need the North American title because he's already a part of the main roster, and he's already a part of the best group in the WWE right now, being the Judgment Day. However, when this did happen at No Mercy, The only part where I could have found a complaint on is the fact that I would have liked to see each member of the Judgment Day hold a title, because they recently had each member of the Judgment Day hold a title at Payback, which was WWE's last pay-per-view before Fastlane that happened last night. And Dominic Mysterio became NXT North American Champion, I think, this past summer, and he's only held it for about 2 to 3 months. And Trick Williams getting this push as a singles competitor is stamped this push when he got this win over on Dominic Mysterio last Saturday at No Mercy, and having this decent match versus Dominic Mysterio at No Mercy only further proved Trick Williams as being a legit singles competitor, and he knows how to work in the ring, and as well as him having charisma and character about himself, and him having the crowd support and him knowing how to play off that factor as well, helps him solidify as a legit wrestler. And him having the North American title would have had him be a legit force to be reckoned with, and would have solidified his push furthermore. However, he would lose it on the next episode of NXT, and Dominic Mysterio became NXT North American Champion yet again. However, unlike what we saw at No Mercy on NXT last week, Rhea Ripley was accompanying Dominic Mysterio, and Rhea Ripley always helped Dominic Mysterio secure a win, and that's how Dominic Mysterio has built this momentum and this heat that he has right now. And he's got, I would say, one of the best momentums going in all of pro wrestling right now. When it comes to crowd reaction, Dominic Mysterio is up there as being one of the most relevant wrestlers when it comes to crowd reactions as of right now. That's why he doesn't really need the NXT North American title to solidify himself, because he is already legit, and his momentum right now already has him stamped as being that, and him being a part of the Judgment Day and his character has already been there. That's why it's more of a help for NXT to have Dominic Mysterio there than to have Dominic Mysterio getting help from NXT. Anyways, I'll give this match a rating of a 3 out of a 5. Then the next match on the card we saw was for the NXT Tag Team titles. The Family defending their NXT Tag Team titles versus the Creed Brothers versus OTM versus Gallus. It was a 4-way match for the tag team titles. This was a well choreographed, well organized, well orchestrated match that we saw, and the Family retained the NXT Tag Team titles, and this was a good match. And when you have this many wrestlers at the same time in one match, you're bound to have a fast-paced, high-action match, and that's what we saw produced out of this match. And there was many highlight reel spots that was produced out of this match, and I'll give this match a rating of a 3.5 out of a 5. And then the next match on the card we saw was for the NXT title, and it was Carmelo Hayes defending the NXT title versus Ilja Dragunov. This was a rematch from Great American Bash, and at the Great American Bash, Carmelo Hayes defeated Ilja Dragunov in a classic wrestling match, and the athleticism that both these wrestlers possess, they're bound to have a classic wrestling match where all wrestling fans can enjoy the in-ring ability that these two wrestlers possess. And they wrestled also on NXT as well, not on a pay-per-view event. And both times Carmelo Hayes defeated Ilja Dragunov to retain the NXT title. However, at No Mercy last Saturday, Ilja Dragunov was able to get the win after hitting his finishing move for a third time on Carmelo Hayes. And that's how Ilja Dragunov was able to capture the NXT title. I'm looking forward to Ilja Dragunov's reign as the NXT champion. He had an impressive reign at England as the NXT champion over there when that was a thing. And he was responsible for ending Gunther's reign over there at NXT England when Ilja Dragunov defeated Gunther for that title. And probably at the next NXT pay-per-view event, these two will wrestle again. I don't know if they're going to have a gimmick match for the NXT title when they wrestle for a fourth time. And this match, I would say, was better than the match that we saw at the Great American Bash from my own personal perspective. And there was many highlight reel spots in this match, and I could list the highlight reel spots in this match. I would suggest for y'all to go check out the clips for yourselves. And as I said, that comes from the athleticism and the in-ring ability that these two wrestlers have. And Ilja Dragunov, man, he's, I would say, up there with Dolph Ziggler and RVD and Darby Allin and Jeff Hardy and names like that when it comes to selling his opponent's moves. And it suits his character because his character is like this angry, psychotic guy. And he was displaying that character during this match anytime Carmelo Hayes would kick out of his pin attempts. And that goes to show and makes up for Ilja Dragunov, who already speaks English at a good level. However, just being able to speak English isn't enough to say, oh, this guy can cut a promo. There needs to be charisma, there needs to be character, there needs to be emotion, and there needs to be an ability for him to connect with the crowd to be considered a legit champion. And he has that. And that's more than, I'm not going to mention his wrestling ability because he already has that. And y'all already know, if y'all already a tapped in wrestling fan, that you need to be more than just a legit wrestler in the ring who can put on indie style wrestling matches. Anyways, I'll give this match a rating of a 4 out of a 5. It was a really good match, and Carmelo Hayes had a long, lengthy, impressive reign as an NXT champion. He held the NXT title for what, like 6-7 months, and Carmelo Hayes has been already a legit force, a legit name that's been a household wrestler out there on NXT. He's held the NXT North American title prior to him being NXT champion, and he already has shown that he's got the it factor when it comes to his in-ring ability, his characteristics, and his charisma, and his promo cutting ability. And he has it. He has the it factor to be a major player in the future. And then the next match was for the Heritage Cup, Noam Dar versus Butch. And this match was a decent match, and Noam Dar got the win after Gallus made an interference I want to say on the behalf of Noam Dar, because Metaphor was already out there accompanying Noam Dar for this match versus Butch. And I don't know why Butch didn't have Ridge Holland or Sheamus accompanying him in this match, because Butch, he's already a part of the main roster and is already a part of a group called the Brawling Brutes, if y'all ain't know already. However, he had his longtime buddy Tyler Bate out there, who was a part of this tournament as well, accompanying him to somewhat even out the odds versus a Metaphor who was out there. Well, it really evens out the odds because it's only one man and two girls that was accompanying Noam Dar in this match versus Butch. However, it was Gallus that caused Butch a potential win at becoming the winner of the Heritage Cup this year, when Gallus would hit, well, it was Joe Coffey who hit his finishing move on Butch, and that's what led to Noam Dar getting this victory over on Butch to still be the winner of this year's Heritage Cup. And I'll give this match a rating of a 3 out of a 5. Now, I don't know if Butch and Tyler Bate are going to be working together, because Butch is already a part of a group on the main roster, as I said. I don't know if he's going to go back to SmackDown to compete in the tag team division as the Brawling Brutes. And I don't know if Butch and Tyler Bate is going to take on Gallus. Gallus has 3 members, unlike Butch and Tyler Bate, who aren't even a part of a team. Now, I don't know if Butch is going to bring over Ridge Holland to even out the odds. Probably, I could guess that that's what NXT is going to go for. Anyways, the next match on the card was the main event for NXT No Mercy. It was a Extreme Rules match with Becky Lynch taking on Tiffany Stratton for the NXT Women's title. Now, this was a proper main event, and it was a good match. I could say arguably the best match on the card, because this had the Extreme Rules element featured in the match. And Becky Lynch brought out a shopping cart full of weapons, adding on to the Extreme Rules elements, actually really selling the Extreme Rules match's gimmick. And it suits the Becky Lynch whole I don't give a F badass attitude character about her. And Tiffany Stratton being this Barbie doll figure, this girly girl, spoiled brat figure character that she has about her, and her not wanting to have this kind of match for her to try and attempt to get the NXT Women's title back. It suits the storyline, it suits the angle, and I think it's the proper way to go about a match with these two women who have two totally different personalities about themselves. And the match, as I said, it was a good one. And there was, as I said, hardcore elements in this match. Becky Lynch had a fan being involved in this match when this brawl was carried on to the crowd, and Becky Lynch would a fan would hand over a chain to Becky Lynch, and she would utilize it to have the momentum go on her favor, and she would whoop on Tiffany Stratton with the chain that was handed to her. And then Tiffany Stratton as well would hit a splash from the ladder onto the table, and there was Tiffany Stratton drop kicking Becky Lynch from the table while Becky Lynch was sitting on the announcer's chair. And this how the match ended, though. I'm just telling y'all, some highlight reel spots that was featured in this match, and Tiffany Stratton going for a moonsault, which is her finisher, onto a pile of chairs where Becky Lynch was laid out on, and Becky Lynch having expert time and moving out of the way, and Tiffany Stratton hitting nothing but steel chairs when she looked to hit the moonsault on Becky Lynch. That would leave Becky Lynch a room of opportunity for her to hit the rock bottom onto the pile of chairs to get the win, to retain the NXT Women's title. And it's a good look for NXT to have Becky Lynch there as well, and her holding the NXT Women's title, and her getting to work with the talent on NXT, and Becky Lynch being a already well-established women's wrestler. She is definitely one of the best wrestlers in all of women's wrestling right now, and for her to be there in NXT is definitely a important factor for the women's wrestlers in NXT, because it should be a great opportunity for the females over there in NXT to get to work with Becky Lynch and a wrestler like her who has the experience factor on her edge and on her side, and that's gonna give experience onto wrestlers like Tiffany Stratton and whoever else gets the chance to work with Becky Lynch while she's over there on NXT. And it's not like she has anything going on over there on Raw, which is the roster that she's a part of. And Becky Lynch, she definitely could have her own thing going on Monday Night Raw after her rivalry ended with Trish Stratus. And this is her getting to accomplish what she couldn't accomplish when she was actually a part of the NXT roster. And she already accomplished what any women's wrestler on the main roster can accomplish. I mean, she's main evented WrestleManias before, and she's tasted the top of the crop on the main roster. So her going to NXT is a veteran getting to work with younger talent and showing them the ropes. That's what it is right now, and that's a good look for NXT, the WWE as a company and as a franchise. And this goes to show Becky Lynch as a legit veteran and her showing off that status. And I will give NXT No Mercy a rating of a 7 out of a 10. As I said, this definitely was a good, legit, solid wrestling show. The next event I'll be giving y'all my ratings on, or ratings and review as well, is WWE Fastlane. The opening contest of Fastlane was for the undisputed tag team titles. The Judgment Day's Damian Priest and Finn Balor defending their WWE undisputed tag team titles versus the team of Jey Uso and Cody Rhodes. Now, this is a odd pairing. I say that because Jey Uso and Cody Rhodes have a history, because earlier this year at WrestleMania, Cody Rhodes challenged Roman Reigns for the WWE Undisputed Universal title, and that's when the bloodline was at its strongest. And Jey Uso joined the Monday Night Raw roster after SummerSlam when he kicked everybody in the bloodline's face after he got screwed out of a potential win at SummerSlam in that tribal combat match for the WWE Undisputed Universal title. And after SummerSlam on SmackDown, he revealed that he quit the bloodline, he quit the WWE. Then at Payback, it was announced by Cody Rhodes on the Grayson Waller Effect show that on the behalf of Monday Night Raw, Cody Rhodes was sent out to announce Raw's latest pickup, that being Jey Uso being an addition to the Monday Night Raw roster. And Jey Uso has split away from not only the bloodline, but from his twin brother Jimmy, who he made his debut with in the WWE, and until SummerSlam this year, the Usos been a tag team ever since they made their debut in the WWE. And Jey Uso and Cody Rhodes, this team works because of that, because ever since Jey Uso joined the Monday Night Raw roster, he's been feuding with the Judgment Day, and the Judgment Day offered a truce to Jey Uso, a opportunity for Jey Uso to join the Judgment Day. However, Jey Uso denied the offer that was presented to him by the Judgment Day because he wanted to go at it alone. And Cody Rhodes been having problems with the Judgment Day, and that's why it made sense for this match to happen at Fastlane last night. And both Jey Uso and Cody Rhodes have experience being in a tag team. Both been former tag team champions. Cody Rhodes was a part of Legacy, and he was tag team champions then when him and Ted DiBiase were the tag team champions, and him and his brother Goldust was tag team champions as well. And I think Cody Rhodes was tag team champions before that as well. Did he ever team with Drew McIntyre, and was they ever tag team champions? I'm not sure though. However, Cody Rhodes been multiple time tag team champions, and Jey Uso, along with his twin brother Jimmy, has been tag team specialists, and the Usos are considered by many as one of the greatest tag teams of all time. And that's why it made sense for this match to happen, and as well as Jey Uso having earned Cody Rhodes' trust, because Cody Rhodes announced Jey Uso to be a part of the Monday Night Raw roster. Cody Rhodes didn't bring Jey Uso to the Monday Night Raw roster. He announced Jey Uso publicly to be the newest addition to the Monday Night Raw roster. And unlike Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn, the last WWE Undisputed Tag Team Champions before the Judgment Day won it from them at Payback, they had problems and still have problems with the Judgment Day. Sami Zayn was welcoming to Jey Uso because they had a tight bond when Sami Zayn was a part of the Bloodline. And Cody Rhodes, he showed at Payback that he had no problems with Jey Uso because he announced him out as Monday Night Raw's newest addition. And Kevin Owens has been the only guy that still hasn't welcomed Jey Uso with open arms. And that's even though they have mutual enemies. And at Fastlane last night, surprisingly, Jey Uso and Cody Rhodes got the win and became the new WWE Undisputed Tag Team Champions. And I say surprisingly because the Judgment Day, Damian Priest, and Finn Balor, they just recently won the tag team titles at WWE's last pay-per-view. And they've only had, one title defense? And for them to drop the titles this quickly when the Judgment Day, each member of the Judgment Day just recently had shine on them with each member holding a title. And Dominic Mysterio on the latest episode of NXT just got back the NXT North American title after Dominic Mysterio was the first one out of the Judgment Day to lose a title. And now 2 out of the 4 members of the Judgment Day doesn't hold a title. And Damian Priest having the Money in the Bank briefcase doesn't make him a champion. That gives him a opportunity to potentially become a champion. And I wonder how this is going to play out, because on the last episode of Raw, Rhea Ripley, when she made her return on television, she voiced her frustrations of how the Judgment Day has not been at their best, and then now they lose the tag team titles at Fastlane. Not a good look. However, it's going to be interesting for the fans to see what's to come out of what happened at Fastlane last night with Damian Priest and Finn Balor losing the tag titles to Jey Uso and Cody Rhodes. And the match itself was a good match, good action, and I'll give the match a rating of a 3.5 out of a 5. And JD McDonough, who has been trying to earn the trust of the Judgment Day, he had a playing factor in this match when he hit Damian Priest's leg with Damian Priest's Money in the Bank briefcase by accident, and that took Damian Priest out of action, leaving Finn Balor to fend for the Judgment Day by himself after Damian Priest got hit on accident by JD McDonough, who was out there to aid the Judgment Day in hopes for them to retain the undisputed tag team titles. And if y'all saw the clips from the press conference to Fastlane, Jey Uso and Cody Rhodes got this comedic chemistry that works well with each other, and both these wrestlers being good in-ring performers, and as well as them being second-generation talents, and them having tag team experience, and them being well over by the crowd, and the crowd seems to like them. That's why I think this alliance and them being tag team champions not only makes sense, however, I think it's gonna work, this alliance. And I also want to see what's going to be next for the Judgment Day, and JD McDonough being a longtime friend of Finn Balor, and Finn Balor is responsible for JD McDonough trying to join the Judgment Day, and that's why I'm looking to see what's going to come out of what happened at Fastlane last night, because Finn Balor and Damian Priest, prior to them winning the tag team titles at Payback, they was going through a problem with each other after what happened at Money in the Bank and at SummerSlam. And will they go back to having problems again? Because now JD McDonough, a friend of Finn Balor, and he cost the Judgment Day the tag team titles. Will this fall on Finn Balor? Will Damian Priest point the finger at Finn Balor for having JD McDonough out there involved in the Judgment Day's business in the first place? And you know Damian Priest has been the most vociferous when it comes to disapproving of JD McDonough's involvement with the Judgment Day's business. Anyways, the next match on the card was a 6-man tag team match with the LWO taking on the team of Bobby Lashley and the Street Profits. It started out as a 3-on-2 handicap match, because if y'all saw SmackDown this past Friday, Joaquin Wild, and I forgot the other member of LWO's name, and I mean that with all due respect, I can't fathom his name right now. Those two got taken out of action after what the Street Profits did to them ringside during the match with Bobby Lashley and Rey Mysterio this past Friday on SmackDown. And that's why it left a vacant spot for a third guy for LWO. And that's why this match started out as a 3-on-2 handicap match. And the match itself was good. It was a good pace, good back and forth, good action match we saw with these 5 wrestlers from the start of the match. And then towards the end of the match, out of nowhere, Carlito would come out to aid the LWO and help them get the win after Carlito picked up the win for the LWO after hitting the backstabber on Montez Ford to get the win for him and Rey Mysterio and Santos Escobar. And I wonder how the relationship with Bobby Lashley and the Street Profits is going to play out after what happened at Fastlane last night, because Bobby Lashley had to bark on the Street Profits after losing to the LWO, and the Street Profits lacking that killer instance that Bobby Lashley is looking forward to when it comes to him being a manager now and looking for talent that he could get behind. And the Street Profits had to bring the mean streak out of them after Bobby Lashley barked on them. And that was only, like 2 weeks ago when that happened? Will Bobby Lashley be more understanding because Carlito came out of nowhere and joined on the behalf of LWO during the end of the match? And that could be one way of how that could play out. However, another way WWE can go on about this angle right here is Bobby Lashley being even more fed up with the Street Profits and Montez Ford getting pinned for the team of Bobby Lashley and the Street Profits to lose last night at Fastlane versus the LWO. And I'm looking forward to it. Anyways, I'll give this match a rating of a 3.5 out of a 5. It's always cool to see Carlito make an appearance in the WWE, and he's looking like he's in great shape. And I don't know if this means for Carlito to be a full-time talent once again in the WWE, because from what I've heard is that Carlito has been wrestling on the independent circuit for a while, ever since he departed from the WWE. Last time we saw Carlito on the WWE was at Backlash when it was in Puerto Rico, and he got that standing ovation from the crowd in his hometown. And then yesterday at Fastlane, he got that same warm reception from the WWE crowd that was in attendance at Fastlane when he was a surprise tag partner for the LWO. Now, it would definitely be cool to see Carlito be a part of the LWO, and it would bring more momentum to the LWO, and it would push LWO further to the relevant scene of the WWE, which are already there. And yeah, that does it for me reviewing for what happened for this match and this storyline with Bobby Lashley, Street Profits, and the LWO. And then the next match on the card we saw was a triple threat match for the women's title. Io Sky defending the women's title versus Asuka and Charlotte Flair. And when you have these 3 wrestlers competing in the same match, in the same ring, you're bound to have a good match. And that's exactly what we saw. Good action, good back and forth, and good pace of a match that we saw produced out of this match. Io Sky got the win after Bayley came out. This what happened towards the end of the match. Bayley provided enough distraction ringside. Dakota Kai, she was also out there as well. And however, Bayley was playing the more important role of providing a distraction on the behalf of Io Sky, because Charlotte Flair had the figure 4 leg lock locked in on Asuka, and Asuka was tapping out. However, the referee was distracted, hence why he couldn't see Asuka tapping out to Charlotte Flair's hold, and then that gave Io Sky enough time to recover to swoop in there to hit the moonsault from the top rope on both Asuka and Charlotte Flair to get the win and retain the women's title. And I'll give this match a rating of a 3 out of a 5. And then the next match on the card we saw was a tag team match with John Cena and LA Knight taking on the team of Jimmy Uso and Solo Sikoa. And this match has been brewing ever since John Cena made his return to WWE TV, and Jimmy Uso interrupted him and had told John Cena to get out, that nobody wants to see him. And then AJ Styles, who was supposed to tag with John Cena for this match, was taken out by the Bloodline, hence why LA Knight replaced his spot to team with John Cena. And it worked out because at Payback, John Cena was the referee for the match that LA Knight had with The Miz. And John Cena had gave LA Knight that stamp of approval and showed his respect to LA Knight and vice versa. And LA Knight came to the aid of John Cena when he was outnumbered, getting assaulted by Jimmy Uso and Solo Sikoa. And Jimmy Uso had recently aligned himself yet again with the Bloodline after Jey Uso had moved to Monday Night Raw, and Roman Reigns hasn't been seen on SmackDown since after SummerSlam, and he's supposed to make his return to WWE TV on the next episode of SmackDown, and we'll see how this storyline is going to play out, because Jimmy Uso clearly let Roman Reigns know that what he did at SummerSlam wasn't for Roman Reigns. It was because he didn't want the Usos to split. And he did say that he didn't want nothing to do with Roman Reigns and the Bloodline. And Solo Sikoa told Jimmy Uso that he doesn't get to leave the Bloodline unless the Bloodline says he's out. And then Jimmy Uso, being unpredictable, and that's why Jimmy Uso had let Solo Sikoa know at that segment that he does what he wants to do. And then later that night, he cost AJ Styles that match versus Solo Sikoa on that episode of SmackDown. And then the week after that, Jimmy Uso says that he's back in with the Bloodline. And that's how him and Solo Sikoa has been working together. And then they're teaming together at Fastlane. And I don't know if they're going to continue teaming together, because I did say on the previous episode of Talk Wrestling that Jimmy Uso, he has been a part of a tag team throughout his whole WWE career. Solo Sikoa has been a singles wrestler throughout his whole WWE career, which just started. And he doesn't need to be in a tag team because his whole career has been built on him alone. And that enforcer gimmick, it works for Solo Sikoa. That's why he doesn't need to be a part of a tag team, because he's already built a monstrous reputation for himself. However, it works though, because this is, I would say, Bloodline 2.0 without Jey Uso, and them trying to revitalize the momentum that they had before. And that's why I think this is, I would say, yeah, this definitely is the most relevant storyline that SmackDown has got going on right now. And the match itself, it was decent. It wasn't the best pure wrestling match. However, I like how this match was choreographed and orchestrated. And I say that because during the beginning of this match, it was Jimmy and Solo that was just beating down on John Cena throughout the beginning to the middle of the match. And LA Knight didn't get tagged in until towards the end of the match. And when LA Knight did get the hot tag, he got the pop from the crowd that he usually receives. And LA Knight ended up getting the win for him and John Cena after hitting his finishing move on Jimmy Uso. And remember, after LA Knight defeated The Miz in their rematch on SmackDown a few episodes ago, he did call out Roman Reigns' name after he said he's done with The Miz and he's going to go on to bigger and better things. And then he had that run-in with Paul Heyman. And then Paul Heyman let LA Knight know that it ain't good to call out Roman Reigns. And LA Knight, with the streak that he got going on right now, it would definitely make sense for the next event at Crown Jewel for him to get a title shot versus Roman Reigns for the WWE Undisputed Universal title. And it would definitely be a good look with the push that LA Knight is getting right now. And it makes sense because LA Knight got this win for him and John Cena last night versus the Bloodline. And him getting a win versus the Bloodline has him getting into it with Roman Reigns automatically because he had this match versus the Bloodline at Fastlane last night. And he, as I mentioned before, called out Roman Reigns' name during his promo after he defeated The Miz. And LA Knight, he did have that run-in with Paul Heyman and did call out Roman Reigns and did have that moment with John Cena. And that's why it made sense for this match to happen and how all this led to what we saw last night at Fastlane. And that's why it would only make sense for LA Knight to get a title shot versus Roman Reigns at Crown Jewel. And I think that's the angle that WWE should. And I can say and predict that that's the angle that WWE will most likely go for. And I'll give this match a rating of a 3 out of a 5. As I said, it wasn't the best classic pure wrestling match. Could this match have been better? Yeah. However, it was what it was. It was decent. It was solid. That's why it gets a rating that it got. And I'm looking forward to see what Roman Reigns is going to say when he returns on SmackDown next Friday. And he's probably going to bark at Jimmy for taking the fall at Fastlane last night. And I wonder how this angle is going to play out with the Bloodline and Roman Reigns now being back on SmackDown, if he's going to be welcoming Jimmy. And then the main event to Fastlane was for the World Heavyweight title. Last Man Standings match with Seth Rollins defending the title versus Shinsuke Nakamura. I thought this match was suiting for the rivalry that Shinsuke Nakamura and Seth Rollins has produced. And I've been hearing a lot of criticism from many wrestling fans from this rivalry, how it could have been booked better. However, I've been a fan of what's been going on with Seth Rollins and Shinsuke Nakamura. And I think WWE has done a great job at building Shinsuke Nakamura and rebrandishing him as this villain, and he's got a unique style that no one else has in all of pro wrestling. As I mentioned before, he's got this whole anime villain character vibe and feel about him, and that is very suiting for Shinsuke Nakamura, and no one else plays that, and that's what makes him unique. And he's been out psyching and outplaying and outthinking Seth Rollins, and Seth Rollins has built a reputation of having a advantage when it comes to these factors. That's why he has a nickname, the Visionary, the Architect, and Shinsuke Nakamura has been outplaying him and getting the upper hand at every exchange that they've been having during their rivalry. And the back of Seth Rollins has been the main focus for Shinsuke Nakamura for this rivalry that they've been having. And a last man standings match with Seth Rollins having a target on his back and his back being somewhat injured was an advantage factor for Shinsuke Nakamura, and I like how they played off that factor as well. And the match itself, it was a good match. It was definitely a main event match that closed out the show instead of the tag team match with the Bloodline and John Cena and LA Knight. And I'm glad the WWE has put the World Heavyweight title to close out the last two pay-per-views that they've put on. And the criticism that the fans has been criticizing the WWE for is the world title, and how they feel like this world title doesn't mean anything, even though that's the number one title on Monday Night Raw. And I thought Seth Rollins has done a great job at being the world champion, and I think it's still a valuable title. Why? Because it's a new title, and because it's not held by Roman Reigns. That's why it's looked at as a less of a title. I think that's devaluing, and WWE fans, not WWE fans, let me not say a specific company, I will say wrestling fans being spoiled and unappreciative when it comes to WWE, not WWE, let me not even say one company, I will say whenever a wrestling company implements a new title and has a workhorse, a great wrestler like a Seth Rollins hold a title like that, that is deemed and considered a world title, and they feel like it feels like a mid-card title, then I don't know, I think that's underappreciating and devaluing and throwing the prestige to the title in the trash for no reason, when I think Seth Rollins done a good job at being the world champion, and he's done a good job at defending the world title frequently, unlike Roman Reigns. That's what I think has brought the world title the value and prestige that it's got, and I think it has a main title feel to it, and I think this rivalry with Rollins and Nakamura has definitely brought more value to the world title, at least from my opinion. Y'all could disagree if y'all want. Anyways, I like what they produced out of this rivalry, and the match quality itself definitely has been good as expected, and this match didn't disappoint at all. And Shinsuke Nakamura, obviously he targeted the back of Seth Rollins, and I like how when Seth Rollins looked like he had the match won, Shinsuke Nakamura would spit the mist right onto Seth Rollins and have him go through the table. And I thought that was a cool element that was displayed in this match. And Seth Rollins, however, ended up getting the win in a triumphant fashion, a typical babyface fashion, Seth Rollins won, and after Shinsuke Nakamura hit the Kinshasa and he used different weapons to his advantage in this match, and then Seth Rollins would always get back up on his feet to answer the 10 count. Then when the brawl spilled onto the outside into the crowd, Seth Rollins would hit the Falcon Arrow from the crowd stance onto the production area, and that's how Seth Rollins got the win. He would make it back up on his feet before Shinsuke Nakamura could, and that's what got Seth Rollins to retain the World Heavyweight title. And I'll give this match a rating of a 3.5 out of 5, only because I disagree with the booking. I thought Shinsuke Nakamura should have walked out as the winner and as a new World Heavyweight Champion. I think it's deserving. I think Shinsuke Nakamura has definitely put in enough work to be the World Champion now. He's won the Royal Rumble before. He's got a title shot at a WrestleMania before, and I think it's time that Shinsuke Nakamura gets appreciated for the work that he's put in, and with the character work that Shinsuke Nakamura has put on in this rebrandishing of him. I think it would have been appropriate that he would have walked out as the winner at Fastlane last night as the new world champion. And I think the reign of Seth Rollins was lengthy enough from the beginning of summer till now, and I don't think with the reputation that Seth Rollins has built for himself, he doesn't need the world title for him to be considered a legit player and definitely a main event talent on Monday Night Raw, and he would have still had an important role to play over there on Raw, whether he had the title or doesn't have the title. And Shinsuke Nakamura, it would have been a better look for him with this rebrandishing character that he has to him. And I would have definitely looked forward to him and what he could have done as the world champion. And I think it would have been a fun reign for Shinsuke Nakamura and what he could do as a world champion, and it would have been a fresh feeling and a fresh look for Shinsuke Nakamura to be the world champion. That's the only disappointing factor that was produced out of this match. Now, I don't want to see Shinsuke Nakamura with this new character that he developed and him being back on the relevancy to going back to being irrelevant or to having a rivalry versus guys like Ricochet, because I know how the WWE gets down. A rivalry like that with Ricochet and Shinsuke Nakamura, which could definitely be of high value, could go underappreciated by the WWE and left in the back burner and forgotten about it and only be featured on Raw here and there. And that would make Shinsuke Nakamura to go back into the irrelevant scene, and it won't make sense for Shinsuke Nakamura to go hunt after the Intercontinental title when he just became a heel, and the heel currently holds the Intercontinental title right now. And as I said, Shinsuke Nakamura, him being unappreciated for the work that he's done, he's held the Intercontinental title. I don't think he's held the U.S. title yet. And has he held the tag team titles before? I don't think so. He's won the Royal Rumble before. He's won the King of the Ring before. However, he hasn't won the world title. And I don't think there has ever been a Japanese world champion in WWE history. That's why it would have also been another cool moment for the WWE to make history with Shinsuke Nakamura to become the first ever Japanese world champion. However, that didn't happen. And Fastlane itself, though, it was a good wrestling show. I'll give this show of a rating, this pay-per-view event of a rating of a 7 out of a 10. It was a good, solid wrestling show. Anyways, moving on now. I did talk about how Adam Copeland was done working with the WWE. Well, he wasn't the only one. WWE announced their major roster cuts last week. Dolph Ziggler got released. Mustafa Ali, Elias, Shelton Benjamin, Riddick Moss, Emma, Top Dollar. Who else got released? It was a bunch of other talent that got released as well. Aaliyah, Dana Brooke. List goes on and on. And the only surprise to me, other than Adam Copeland getting released, was Mustafa Ali, because he had a program going on and he was supposed to challenge Dominic Mysterio for the North American title at No Mercy. Instead, he got cut by the WWE, and he was asking the WWE for a release from his contract like a year or two ago, and he gets released by the WWE last week when he had a thing going on over there on NXT, and apparently NXT had plans for him going on all the way till next year. And Mustafa Ali announced on his Twitter that he's no longer with the WWE, and I don't know if he's going to go to AEW or anything like that. I think WWE has done a good job at pushing Mustafa Ali, and I think he was at the level that he was supposed to be at. He got the challenge for the Intercontinental title in Saudi Arabia and at the Night of Champions in front of over like 40,000 people, and he played a pivotal role as a veteran in NXT. And that was after he came back from that failed push attempt when he was a part of the Retribution. And now I don't know where he's going to go. I think if he goes to Impact Wrestling, he might be a good fit there. If he goes to AEW, I don't know if AEW has room for him to be a major player on their roster. And then there was Dolph Ziggler, who also got the boot from the WWE. Now, this was a surprise because Dolph Ziggler has been a franchise player for the WWE for a while now. And Dolph Ziggler has been a talent that I would say you could put on the same level as The Miz, because he's been with the WWE when he was a part of the Spirit Squad. That's like back in like 05, 06 when he was a part of the Spirit Squad. And then he came onto the scene again in like 08, 09 as Dolph Ziggler. He played the role of a jobber. He played the role of a mid-card talent that the WWE fans or wrestling fans overall was saying, hey, this guy is something, and he's unappreciated. Then he became world champion, won Money in the Bank, and then he became a veteran working with younger talent and putting guys over. And that's what he did last time we saw him on WWE TV before JD McDonough had his current angle going on right now with the Judgment Day. Dolph Ziggler had put him over. And then Dolph Ziggler, his athleticism, his ability to sell his opponent's moves and make them look like gold, and his promo cutting ability is unappreciated as well. And that's why I thought this release was a surprise that the WWE gave Dolph Ziggler the boot, because Dolph Ziggler has been a franchise player for a while. And Top Dollar getting released by the WWE, that now wasn't that much of a surprise, because Hit Row, their push got derailed after like a few months after Hit Row made their comeback to the WWE after getting released. And I think the WWE definitely can use tag teams to revitalize their tag team scene, especially with this brand split, because I did say on an episode of Talk Wrestling that I'd like to see for the brand split emphasis that the WWE implements another tag team title for SmackDown, because the undisputed tag team title is over there on Monday Night Raw, and SmackDown doesn't have a tag team title, while there's a world champion for each brand, as there's a mid-card title for each brand, a women's title for each brand. It's only the tag team titles that's fluctuating between two brands, and that devalues the brand split. And that's why I think the WWE can use Hit Row to still be a part of the WWE. And then there's Shelton Benjamin, who also got released. He's been a veteran. He's been released before. That's why this release didn't come as much of a surprise, because, as I said, he's been released a few times before by the WWE. However, it goes to the tag team factor as well, because Shelton Benjamin was a part of a tag team with Cedric Alexander and with Bobby Lashley, and him playing the managerial role. If Shelton Benjamin and Cedric Alexander could have played a role with what Bobby Lashley and the Street Profits got going on, because they wasn't a part of this year's draft, that's why I thought Shelton Benjamin could have still had a role with the WWE. If they weren't going to do anything with Shelton Benjamin and Cedric Alexander on the main roster, they could have at least had them being a tag team over there on NXT. And NXT isn't lacking when it comes to their tag team division. Hence why I think Hit Row, Shelton Benjamin and Cedric Alexander, guys like that could have been in a tag team on SmackDown. And as well as Riddick Moss, who got released by the WWE along with Emma as well. That didn't come as much of a surprise, because they had nothing going on. That's why them getting released made sense. And it could have only came as a surprise to people because Vince saw a lot in Riddick Moss, and that's why he was getting the push after he split from teaming with Happy Corbin, and he had this athleticism factor about him. He had the physique, yet he lacked charisma. He couldn't cut promos, and his in-ring ability needed to be worked on. And then Emma, who's Riddick Moss's real-life girlfriend, she got released along with him as well. She didn't have anything going on as well. She was only managing Riddick Moss, and they haven't been seen on TV ever since last year, and they was playing the jobber role. And then who else got released? Elias, him getting released wasn't that much of a surprise, because they had nothing going on for him either. Elias, I could see how he's unappreciated, because he has that trait like Baron Corbin, where he could adapt and have character adjustments and character changes and play along with the characters that gets put onto him very well. And his ability to perform in the ring is decent. And however, him getting the boot made sense because the WWE had nothing going on for him. And as well as Maximum Male Models, them getting released, that made sense. They had nothing going on. Unless they would have used them to be a tag team, that's the only reason to keep Maximum Male Models. And they could have had not that Billy and Chuck gimmick, however, that annoying flamboyant gimmick, and that would have made them heels that fans could look forward to jobbing out. And if they weren't gonna revitalize the tag team department and introduce a tag team title over there on SmackDown, there's no real need for them either. That's why that release made sense. And Dana Brooke, who was doing her thing on NXT, got released as well. She wasn't playing that much of a pivotal role in NXT. However, she was working with the younger talent in the developmental stages, and that was a fitting role for her. And she was frequently seen on NXT. That's why her getting released could have been a surprise to many people. However, it's not that much of a toll for the WWE. Anyways, I don't think there was any other talents. Oh, Aaliyah, she got released. However, I don't think she was seen on WWE TV since last year because she won the tag team titles with Raquel Rodriguez, I think a year or two ago. Then she got injured, and ever since then, we haven't seen her. So her getting released, it doesn't take much of a toll on the WWE either. It doesn't come as a surprise. And I'm not going to go through the whole list of talent that got released by the WWE. Anyways, the biggest release, obviously, well, it wasn't a release. Edge, Adam Copeland's contract expired, and the WWE couldn't come to terms with the request that Edge, Adam Copeland was making to work with the WWE and for their relationship to continue, and the WWE rejected Adam Copeland, Edge's requests to have their working relations continue. And that's why he's with AEW. Anyways, moving on to the next subject, and that is the WWE acquiring Jade Cargill as their newest acquisition. Jade Cargill, her contract expired with AEW a few weeks ago, and she had decided to move to the WWE and work with the WWE instead of re-signing with AEW, where she made her career at, and she's looking to get a big push from the WWE. And before she makes her debut with the WWE is already hyping up Jade Cargill as this sensation, and she's been making headlines from bunch of other medias that has nothing to do with the WWE, and that's why I didn't hear anything about Jade Cargill signing with the WWE. However, if y'all are long-time wrestling fans that's tapped in with pro wrestling, the way Jade Cargill had her last match with AEW, you could somewhat see that she was getting prepared to jump ship to another company, and that's exactly what it was. So with the WWE releasing all these talents, they picked up a major talent in Jade Cargill, and she was seen at Fastlane last night, and she's getting this whole superstar treatment, and her making her debut in the WWE is going to be a look forward thing for the WWE fans, and she's going to get into major feuds most likely. I think she'll probably debut. If she made an appearance at Fastlane last night, she probably might make her debut as fast as Crown Jewel. I was going to say she could be a surprise entrant at Royal Rumble next year. I think that would be the most appropriate time for her to make her debut at a big event like that. And she'll probably, I don't know, with this brand split, I think it would make more sense for her to work at SmackDown instead of Raw. That way she could have a match versus Bianca Belair, Charlotte Flair, Io Sky, Asuka, and names like that. And then if she's over there on Raw, two physical specimens like Nia Jax, Rhea Ripley, Raquel Rodriguez, a veteran like Becky Lynch. If she wrestles girls like that on Raw, that can also work as well. And as I said, WWE has been making it a big deal for the signing of Jade Cargill with the WWE. And I'm looking forward to seeing what the WWE will do with Jade Cargill being a part of the WWE franchise now. And that does it for this episode of Talk Wrestling. Y'all let me know what y'all opinions are on all the subjects that I covered on this episode. Comment, subscribe, share, like, all that good stuff. And click the links in the description to show y'all support. Anything is appreciated. And I'm out of here, y'all. Peace.